Hello, my name is Ryan, and 3 years ago, I found something that completely changed my life. It was not a treasure, a lottery ticket, or a business opportunity. It was simply a lost wallet. At that time, I was a university student struggling with money. I lived in a small apartment, worked part-time, and often worried about how I would pay my bills. Some days were so difficult that I skipped meals to save money. I tried my best to stay positive, but life felt harder every month. One cold afternoon, after finishing classes, I walked through a quiet park on my way home. The sky was gray, and the park was almost empty. As I passed a wooden bench, something caught my attention. There was a black wallet lying on the seat with nobody around it. At first, I looked around to see if someone had dropped it. The park was silent. There were no people nearby. Curious, I picked up the wallet and opened it carefully. The moment I looked inside, my eyes widened in shock. The wallet was full of cash. There were hundreds of dollars inside, more money than I had seen in months. For a few seconds, I simply stared at it. My mind immediately began racing with different thoughts. I thought about my unpaid rent. I thought about my university fees. I thought about all the problems that money could solve. A voice inside my head whispered, "Nobody saw you find it. Nobody will know." But another voice quietly replied, "The money doesn't belong to you." I sat on the bench holding the wallet for several minutes. I felt trapped between two choices. If I kept the money, many of my problems would disappear. If I returned it, my life would stay difficult. Eventually, I put the wallet into my backpack and walked home. But instead of feeling happy, I felt uncomfortable. That evening, I placed the wallet on my desk and looked at it again. The temptation was stronger than ever. Inside the wallet, I found several bank cards, an ID card, and a small family photograph. The photo showed a smiling man standing beside a woman and a young girl. They looked happy together. For some reason, that photograph changed everything. Suddenly, the wallet no longer felt like a pile of money. It belonged to a real person with a real life, a family, and a story. Still, I couldn't stop thinking about the money. I barely slept that night. I kept asking myself the same question over and over again. What would I do if I were the owner? The next morning, I finally made my decision. I was going to find the owner and return everything. Using the information on the ID card, I started searching online. It took several hours, but eventually I found an address. The address was on the other side of the city. It would take almost an hour by bus to get there. Part of me still wanted to change my mind, but deep inside, I knew returning it was the right thing to do. That afternoon, I arrived at a small house in a quiet neighborhood. My heart was beating fast as I knocked on the door. A middle-aged man opened the door. He looked tired and worried. Before I could say anything, I held up the wallet and asked, "Is this yours?" The man's eyes immediately filled with surprise. "Where did you find it?" he asked. I explained everything and handed the wallet to him. For a moment, he simply stood there staring at it. Then, something unexpected happened. Tears appeared in his eyes. At first, I assumed he was emotional because of the money. After all, there was a lot of cash inside. But then he opened the wallet and carefully removed the small photograph. Holding the picture tightly, he looked at me and said, "The money doesn't matter." I was confused. If it wasn't the money, why was he crying? The man took a deep breath and pointed to the woman in the photograph. "She was my wife," he said quietly. His voice trembled as he continued speaking. She passed away 8 months ago. This is the last picture we ever took together. Suddenly, everything became clear. The wallet wasn't important because of the money. It was important because it carried one of his most precious memories. The man sat down and held the photograph close to his chest. For a few moments, neither of us spoke. The room felt heavy with emotion. Finally, he thanked me again and again. He seemed unable to believe that someone had returned the wallet. Before I left, he asked for my phone number. I gave it to him without thinking much about it. A few weeks passed, and life returned to normal. I continued studying and working long hours. Then one evening, I received a phone call from an unfamiliar number. It was the same man. He asked if we could meet for coffee because he wanted to talk to me about something important. The next day, we met at a small cafe downtown. During our conversation, I learned that he owned a successful company in the city. He told me he had been impressed by my honesty and determination. Then he asked me a question that completely surprised me. Would you like to work for my company while you finish university? For a moment, I thought I had misunderstood him. But he smiled and repeated the offer. Not only did he offer me a job, but he also offered financial support for my education. I couldn't believe what was happening. The opportunity felt unreal. Of course, I accepted. That job helped me pay my bills, complete my degree, and build a better future for myself. Over time, the man became more than an employer. He became a mentor and a friend. Sometimes we still talked about the day I found his wallet in the park. He often told me that honesty is rare, and rare things have great value. Today, whenever people ask me about the biggest turning point in my life, I tell them about that wallet. I tell them that doing the right thing is not always easy. Sometimes it feels painful. Sometimes it feels unfair. But character is built during those difficult moments when nobody is watching. If I had kept the money, I might have solved a few temporary problems. But by returning the wallet, I gained something far more valuable: trust, opportunity, and self-respect. My name is Ryan, and this is the story of the lost wallet that changed my life forever.